Welcome to the 10th video in the series, The Character of the Communist Mode Production According to Marx and Engels. Today we'll be going over the 1885 piece by Marx, Capital Volume 2, Part 3, The Reproduction and Circulation of the Aggregate Social Capital, Chapter 18, Introduction. I've subtitled this, Communist Society Organized to Produce Real Wealth. In Capital Volume 1, the only condition of circulation that is assumed is that the capitalist sells the product at its value and is able to find what is necessary to reproduce himself as a capitalist. Therefore, the purchase and sale of labor power is the only fundamental condition of capitalist production analyzed. Capitalism is necessarily a commodity-producing society, with commodities as the sell form of capitalism. Commodities in turn presupposes commodity circulation, and capital in the form of money capital, as a primary and continual motor of every individual or social capital. Commodity circulation in turn presupposes the expression of commodities in money and the circulation of money, which in turn implies that money capital acts with constant repetition as short intervals acting as aforementioned motor. As such, the whole of advanced capital value, which is all the elements of capital, commodities, labor power, instruments of labor, materials of production, must be bought continuously with money. While capital's scale of production does not entirely rest upon the amount of functioning money capital, it is strongly influenced by it. At the same time, its productive potential is further limited because money value acts as both a medium of circulation and as a hoard at the same time. In addition, there is a natural trend towards imperialism because, through the transformation of money value into elements of production, it can be exchanged with other nations, and thus the scale of production expanded. This, of course, requires that money and capitalism be worldwide with a world market. In communism, though, there is no commodity production, and hence no commodity circulation. There's no limitation on production in the form of money capital. It does not rely on money capital to reproduce society, but rather it selects these things directly according to necessity and under the sole constraint of possible labor. Labor, the means of production, and nature all exist with or without money value. As such, money value is not the limit to them. Every mode of production has to do extensive, long-term operations, including communism. Capitalism, however, has to put out advances of money capital in order to mobilize capitals and thereby labor to do it. As a result, various structures like credit systems, stock companies, and so on must emerge. Communism will not have to rely on such roundabout ways of getting shit done. For communism, the amount of labor and means of production used without supplying means of subsistence for a period must be calculated. Ideally, it does not harm branches of production by way of overdraft. Society must be able to support a large mass of people doing labor which will not benefit it for an extended period. In order for this to work in a society wherein money capital is eliminated, and society itself distributes labor power and means of production directly, those laboring in extensive long-term operations need some way that is not bringing a product to society in order to evidence their labor. Communism employs more labor while freeing it, with no need for use surplus value. Total time spent laboring for the individual worker reduces as number of shifts increases. Time is maximally economized by the highest intensity of use of fixed capital, thus allowing for faster development of the productive forces. It maximizes the natural forces which are renewable in order to minimize costs. Communism has no world market and money does not exist. Hence, labor, means of production, and nature are directly wielded by the entire world, centralized and organized for use, and thus the scale of production is necessarily maximized where it was limited before. And to go back to this for just a second before we finish off for today's piece, we will talk more about this, I believe, in the next piece, and then more in the critique of the Gotha program, and then more still in anti-during. So look forward to those, but I want to be clear here that this is a strictly temporary measure, and then eventually this sort of necessity for individuals to evidence their social labor being done no longer is necessary. So there is a period wherein we utilize something that we might call labor vouchers or something along those lines. This is not money. It does not circulate. We already talked about it before in the chapter on money in the Grundrisse that we read earlier. So we will be getting into more detail about this, but just understand that this is not money, but it is a way of making it so society can organize production and recognize all the different inputs. And it's a function of accounting, nothing more. With that said, that is the end of my summary for Capital Volume 2, Part 3 to Reproduction and Circulation of the Aggregate Social Capital, Chapter 18, Introduction. If you'd like to go over the quotations that I derived this summary from, feel free to go into the description below and read through the Google Doc that I shared. And if you want to talk about this further, feel free to join the United Marxist Pact Discord server, and I would love to discuss this with whoever comes in, or if, there's many others as well that are quite aware of these texts. So, tomorrow we will be going over Capital Volume 3, Part 7, Revenues and Their Sources, Chapter 48, The Trinity Formula. Thank you for joining me for today's topical summary, and I hope to see you tomorrow.